welcome to the NorthCap Masterclass, a series of talks wherein you get to listen to eminent thinkers, scholars, and leaders sharing their perspectives on what's going on in the world and what it means for you as future professionals. Over the past 25 years, the NorthCap University has been a meeting ground of talented students and faculty. Our graduates are well accepted all over the world by leading companies and by top universities abroad. For one reason only. At NCU, we are firmly invested into the future. A glance at all the specializations we offer in engineering, management, and law will powerfully illustrate this. From cybersecurity to artificial intelligence to virtual reality to digital marketing and to latest trends in jurisprudence and law, we cover it all. The same intent drives our recent collaboration with the Arizona State University, the first of its kind in India in coverage, breadth, and depth, all designed to bring the latest education to you, the student. Our core belief is that each one of you will operate in the global arena and will make a difference in this rather uncertain world of ours. That you will play a role in improving the life of the common man. On the NCU degree, you may score many A's in your courses, but all of you will have two more essential A's, aptitude and attitude. In this masterclass series, we look through the eyes of those who have these two A's and have made a difference. And today we have a guest who illustrates what global career is all about. One who has seen action in many parts of the world. Indeed, today he speaks to us from Washington, D.C., where he is based. Let me introduce Mr. Broker. Neel Broker is President Asia Pacific at Cintana Education. Earlier, he was Chief Executive Officer at Laureate Education's EMEA, that is Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. In this role, he ran the largest education platform outside the Americas, spanning 10 countries, more than 20 institutions, and 150,000 enrolled university students, aggregating to nearly $700 million or more than 5,200 crores at today's prices annually. Neel joined Laureate in Hong Kong in 2008 as one of the initial members of the Asia Pacific team and successfully built Laureate's India operations based in Delhi. Between 2015 and 2017, he served as Laureate's Chief Strategy Officer in Baltimore, US. Neel managed Laureate's multiple partnerships and served on the board of Coursera. Prior to Laureate, he was a director at Merrill Lynch in Hong Kong, investment executive at ICV Capital Partners in New York, consultant at McKinsey in New York and Manila, Philippines, and investment banker at Deutsche Bank in New York and London. Neel has obtained a Master of Science degree from BITS Pilani and MBA from UPenn's Wharton School. Today, he speaks to you on being multidisciplinary and international as a way of building your career. Neel, welcome to the NorthCap University, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Milind. And it's a real pleasure to be here with you and with the entire NorthCap community. I truly wish I was there in person. Maybe in a different time, we would all be sitting around a table or sitting in a room and having this discussion, and a very lively discussion. On the other hand, we all marvel at what technology has been able to do for us. The fact that I'm sitting here in DC and engaging with all of you in Delhi, and the fact that so many other amazing speakers have joined this masterclass from different parts of India and different parts of the world to be with all of you. So thank you so much again for the invitation and for the very kind introduction. Friends, you will go down in NCU history as the COVID batch. Now, you may wear that as a badge of honor. You may wear that as a badge of anxiety or distress. But the truth is, you are truly coming into your university experience at a most unique time, something that is unprecedented within the education system, at least in recent memory. You've gone through a very anxious last year for your 12th standard. You all probably prepared very hard and then had your plans turned upside down at the last minute. A lot of uncertainty around board exams, lots of uncertainty around results, and of course, lots of uncertainty around where you end up for your university education. So first and foremost, I want to congratulate all of you for landing up at an amazing university. I have been to NorthCap many times. It's a beautiful campus, and I'm sure you'd love your time there. You're surrounded by passionate educators, passionate leaders, and an amazing group of students. And I have met many of those students in previous batches, and I've been so impressed with their drive, with their ambition, their aspiration, and their desire to make a difference in the world. As the COVID batch, I have to tell you that my firm belief is that some of the greatest success stories from NCU will actually come from this batch. And which is why the theme of my talk today is to write your own story. Since the next 3 to 4 years of your life, which I think will be amongst the most formative of your careers and your lives, then truly shape the next 30 or 40 years of your life. Now, some of you may be rolling your eyes already, thinking that, okay, here's another person who's coming to give us gyan, talking about the next 30, 40 years of our lives. That's too far away. But what I can tell you is that I can relate to your situation. I graduated from business school, from the Wharton School in the US in 2001, 2002. So we went down in history, in Wharton history, as the dot-com bust batch. Now, some of you were just probably being born at that time, which makes me feel very old. But in 2001, the technology sector collapsed. 5 years of stock price gains got wiped out over the course of a year. Some of the most storied companies of the time went belly up and bankrupt. As a student at business school, surrounded by some of the most amazing young professionals in the world, everybody came in with stars in their eyes and with great aspiration, including myself. We went into the summer of 2001, which was at the end of my first year, guns blazing. It was the most exciting time in history. Technology was changing the world. The company that I spent my summer with, had an internship with, and where I got a full-time offer, which I accepted to join a year later, went bankrupt. And that was a $20 billion company. It wasn't a small company. It was a huge company that went bankrupt. And with that, my job offer went up in the air. I quickly scrambled. I was desperate in my second year. I just lost my job offer. I was fortunate to get a job with McKinsey. And then McKinsey wrote me back saying that we'd love to have you, but we have to delay your start date by 6 months. I actually felt fortunate because around me were friends of mine, classmates of mine, whose jobs were lost and never came back. Companies canceled on students, which is unprecedented. Some job offers got pushed back 1 or 2 years. It was a real doom and gloom year. The mood was exceptionally pessimistic. Now, I say that, and I share all of this, not to depress all of you, but to share with you that coming out of my batch, the graduating batch of 2002, the batch which probably had the worst career outcome or placement history in the last few decades at Wharton, some of the graduates from that batch, some of my friends and classmates, ended up in paths that were unprecedented, in careers that they had never imagined. Let me give you a few examples. One of my friends and batchmates today is the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai. He actually had the aspiration of graduating from business school like many others and going down a well-trodden path of investment banking or consulting. And instead, this disruption in the environment forced him to think about what his real passion is, and it took him back to technology, and the rest is history. Another friend of mine, Tao Zhang from China, he got so depressed with the whole situation. He got job offers that were taken away from him. He pulled himself up and said, I'm going to go back to China and I'm going to take control of my own destiny and start a company of my own. Today, the company that he started is valued at over $10 billion in China. It is one of the most successful consumer internet companies in China. These are some of the success stories which we may read about in newspapers. But around them was a whole class of students whose plans got changed, and many of them pulled up their socks, looked deep within, and asked themselves, what is it that I really care about? What am I really passionate about? Do I really want to become an investment banker? Do I really want to become a consultant? And some of them went down the paths of their passion because the unique environment forced them to think and act differently. Some of my friends have ended up becoming some of the most successful restaurateurs. They own restaurants. One of my friends who used to be in private equity investing ended up starting a bakery, a very successful bakery in New York City, which is now expanded. Another one set up a travel company because she loved to travel and see the world. Another friend of mine ended up pursuing her passion for space and today works at the Space Foundation. So I share all of this with you because you come into a moment and everything around you seems to change. And people around you seem to be quelled and anxious with the chaos of the external environment. And this is when you have the opportunity to write your own story. Ask yourself, what am I passionate about? What is the future that I see for myself? Do I want to be blown around like a leaf in the wind? Or do I want to stand firm on a foundation that I believe in and build my life and my career around that? And each of you will define success in your career and life in a different way. Some of you may define it in dollars and cents. Some of you may define it in terms of passion. Some of you will define it in terms of happiness. But that's a question each of you should answer for yourself. There is a lot in the world that you don't control, but there is a lot that you do control. And that is the decisions that you make and how you conduct yourself in the situation and the circumstances that you find yourself in. So you want to be the author of your own story. As you start your journey to write your own story, a few learnings or thoughts from my own experiences. As Milind shared, I grew up in India. I went to university in India. And subsequently, my passion after I graduated from Pilani, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, but I knew I wanted to see the world. And for the next 10 to 15 years of my life, and some of my decisions didn't make any sense professionally in the grand scheme of things, but they all fit around a theme of pursuing my passion of seeing the world. So I found a way to land up in the US as a 21-year-old and to start working on Wall Street. And that was a coincidence. I took some risks. They could have gone terribly wrong, but fortunately it worked out. From the US, I went to the UK. I came back to the US for business school. I had never been to East Asia. So after business school, I ended up joining McKinsey in East Asia. People ask me, why are you going to Southeast Asia when you could very easily get a job that's paying you twice as much in the US? Maybe it was irrational, but I was passionate about exploring that part of the world. And I'm so glad that I did. So just a few thoughts from my own experience that I can share with you. First and foremost, going back to the analogy of being a tree. Now, you don't have to be the tallest tree in the forest. You don't have to be the strongest tree. In fact, one may argue, the more flexible you are as a tree, the more sustainable your future. Because if you are too rigid and too hard and standing too tall, a big gust of wind can blow you over. But if you have strong roots, and can sway with the wind, you can survive even the greatest storms. So first and foremost is, I think the foundational bedrock as you write your story are your own personal values and integrity. Who do you want to be? What do you want to be remembered for? If you think about the last year of your life, think about yourself and locked in a room, locked in a small house or small apartment because of COVID. How did you survive that? Who are the people who helped you, held your hand, kept you going? Whose hands did you hold to help them move along? It was your family. It was your family. It was your immediate friends and some of those very, very close relationships. Never forget that. Never let that go. Because throughout life, wherever life takes you in whatever direction, being a good friend and loving family member will always stay with you. And those are the people who will always be with you through thick and thin. The second is focus on the things that you can control. And what you can control today is your own hard work, the sacrifices that you're willing to make, and being a constant and a continuous learner, being curious. You may not have all the resources at your disposal. College may get shut down in a few months with the next wave of COVID. Who knows? But that should not come in the way of your desire and ability to work hard, keep looking ahead, make the sacrifices that you need to make along the way to get to your objective. And at this point, that objective, a primary objective, is to be a learner. And learner just doesn't mean only academic, but in the broadest sense of the term. Learn from everything that you see around you. This is an amazing developmental stage for each of you. The third thing I will share is have a positive mental attitude, both to people as well as challenges. The easiest thing for any of us to do when times are tough in particular is to point fingers at somebody else. A positive mental attitude is looking at every situation in the most positive way, which doesn't mean you have to be naive, which doesn't mean that you have to love everybody. But I think it is having a positive and optimistic approach because every problem can be solved. The fourth is don't be an island. We live in an amazing world filled with resources which help us connect with each other. There are so many people out there who can benefit from your help in whatever shape and form. Your friends, people who are outside the university campus who may not ever have the opportunity to attend university like you can. There are many ways in which you can help those people. Similarly, don't be afraid of asking for help. These are the relationships that you may not see the rewards and the returns today, but as you go through your lives and careers, things come around very often in a full circle. So don't be an island. Make the most of everything that's around you. Make the most of the environment, of society, civil society, academic society, and benefit from it. And finally, what I will say is embrace what you don't control. There is a lot in life that you don't control. And trust me, I mentioned there was this dot-com bust in 2001. There was another financial system collapse in 2008. At some point in the next few years, I wish I could predict when, but at some point in the next few years, there will be another collapse of the financial markets, business markets, and in some cases, as we see around the world, just in societies at large. So there are a lot of external factors out there that you don't control. I think what's important is to be able and willing to adapt to those changes in the external environment. And if you can adapt to those changes with a positive attitude, surrounded by deep relationships, friends, family, with the benefit of the hard work, the sacrifice, and the learnings over your time, you will do well. So I'm confident, and I go back to one of my earlier points that I think some of the greatest success stories at NorthCap will come from this batch, because you have the benefit, the unique benefit of having been tested in ways that your predecessors have not been tested. And you've been tested, your resilience has been tested in an environment where what technology is bringing to you, what society is bringing to you, the access that you have to resources is unprecedented. So make the most of it. At university in particular, and very specifically, make some of the most amazing friendships and have some of the most special experiences that you can have in your life. Because these are the friendships that will last with you forever. This is a unique and special time for you. Specialize. Each of you have picked a discipline. Specialize in that, become an expert in that, and that will be valued more so today than in the past. But also remember to be curious and learn across disciplines. If I look back at the 20 years since I graduated from business school, or 23 or 24 years since I graduated from Pilani, most of my friends are not working in fields that they graduated in. This is not to say that your specialization is irrelevant, but what it means is that the world throws up so many different opportunities at you, and your path is not going to be a straight path. You will likely find yourself ending up in a different field, in a different area, and you will succeed in that because you have a multidisciplinary approach. So specialize, but be curious and learn whatever you can across the different schools that your university has to offer. Build passion around the things that will have an impact in your life. And today I can think of nothing more relevant than climate sustainability and the environment. Find a way to get involved in that. Find a way to learn more. Use the resources at your university. Use some of the new resources that the ASU partnership is bringing to you. But learn what you can about this, because all of our lives in the next few decades are going to be greatly impacted by the actions that we as society and as humans have taken over the last 50 to 100 years. So it's up to us now to save ourselves and save the planet. And it starts with each of us as an individual. Fourth is get involved in as many extracurricular activities as you can. It'll make your life and your experience much more interesting. And frankly, it will help you become much more successful in your careers as well. There is a famous Google interview question. Once you're interviewed by 15 or 20 of Google executives, one of the questions they ask themselves as they're reviewing an individual's candidacy is, do I want to be stuck with this person at an airport? What does that mean? Is this person interesting? This person may be an expert in his or her field, but is this an interesting person to sit with? Can this person sustain a conversation across multiple topics and domains? Can this person have a good time? Can this person have a good laugh? Extracurricular activities is a great way for you to broaden your exposure in all of these areas. And the final thing I will say is, don't wait for career services to find you a job or an internship. They will do that for sure. And NCU, more than most other universities I know, takes career placement exceptionally seriously. But I say this because the truth is, once you graduate, for the rest of your life, nobody is ever going to come to you with a job on a silver platter or a career opportunity on a silver platter. You will have to chart your own destiny. So get used to that and start learning how to get out there, how to explore the world, how to sell yourself now. And this is the best time to do it because there's no risk of failure. 10, 15 years from now, the stakes will be much higher. Today, people will give you the benefit of the doubt. So use your time, discover your passion, and get out there and first and foremost, try to find something for yourself. And then let career placement come and offer you something over and above that. and then you can pick and choose. We live in a data-hungry and a data-driven world. So for many of you, a career in technology or technology-related fields is a logical choice. My view on this is that technology is an enabler. It's a means to an end, and not the end in itself. So technology can be a very powerful tool to help you pursue your passions in any field, be it design, be it business and finance, be it construction, be it sustainability. Technology can take you abroad physically, or it can make you a part of a global community while you sit in your classroom at NorthCap. So understand technology well. Regardless of the field that you're in, make the effort to understand it and its potential. Stay abreast of the developments. But then marry that with your passion so you can direct everything that you learn towards your passion and the story that you want to write for yourself. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share some of my thoughts with you. I think, as I said at the outset, you are all very fortunate and privileged to be at a wonderful university. This university has entered into a very unique partnership with Arizona State University. It is a one-of-its-kind partnership. Arizona State University is one of the largest universities in the United States. It is the most innovative university in the United States. It spends $700 million a year on research alone. So the resources that Arizona State University has are tremendous. This partnership between NorthCap and Arizona State University is very young. It is only a few months old. And so over the next few years, each of you not only will have the chance to experience more and more facets of what this partnership can offer, but I think each of you will also have the unique opportunity as the pioneering batch within this partnership of defining what this partnership can look like for NorthCap University. So as you settle in, please try to understand as much as you can about this partnership, learn as much as you can about Arizona State University, and please do go to your faculty members, please do go to your leaders and share with them what you would like to get out of this partnership. Not everything that you want is necessarily going to be available or feasible. Like I said, nothing comes on a silver platter, but it starts with you. Make the effort to learn, make the effort to understand, and then take the initiative and go and share your aspirations for this partnership with your leadership. Because that will be the most powerful way for them, in turn, to engage with leaders at Arizona State University to deliver the best possible experience for you from that partnership. I hope you found some of what I said helpful and had the chance to take something from the last 15 to 20 minutes of our time together. I hope to see you all in person soon when I visit India next and when I visit NorthCap. Thank you so much for your time. Milind?
Neel, thank you very much. Straight from the heart kind of a talk. I wish I was 18-year-old again and I was sitting on the other side listening to you. Perhaps, who knows, my life would have taken a different path. I want to pick up on some of the things that I heard you say. Okay. Your connection is not stable. It's all right. So I want to pick up on some of the things that you said. You said specialize in whatever degree you have enrolled in. But then you also said that the career path is not predictable and you may very well find yourself doing many things. Does that really mean that the first degree doesn't matter, except that you have to go specialize and deep into that and build a good foundation. And then there will be other things for you to do.
I think the first degree will mean different things to different people. For some of you students, you will find so much interest and so much passion around the specialization that you're pursuing today, that you will either make a career, a vocation, or pursue further education in precisely that domain because of the expertise and the interest that you have. But I think, and I don't want to presuppose or prejudge, but I think for most of you, you will learn a lot. You will enjoy what you learn. You will have a lot of passion around what you learn. But as you step out of this university into the world ahead, you will find a different path. That path may start with the specialization that you have, but it may take you in different directions. So and this may not be necessarily the answer that all of you want to hear. But first and foremost, again, speaking from the heart, if you ask me today, do I remember what I learned, at my 4 years in BITS Pilani?
Excuse me.
Again, your faculty members and your deans will hate me for saying this. But today, when I look, and I was a great student, I got A's and all of that. But I actually remember very little about what I studied specifically in Pilani. If you ask, and this is no fault on Pilani, because if you ask me, do I remember exactly what I learned at Wharton, one of the best business schools in the world, I look back and say, I'm actually not that sure I remember that much specifically about what I studied in terms of the subject matter or the content. But what I do remember, and what I think has served me well from all of these experiences, both in Pilani and in Wharton, in equal measure, is the discipline around learning, an approach to problem solving, a way to think through problems, a way to work with teams to solve and whether it is to solve a problem, whether it is to study together to ace the exam for which you're studying at the last minute late at night. It is the life experiences at these institutions that has kind of really shaped most of what I have done in my career. And yes, the subject matter expertise from those degrees served me well, but it served me well up to a point. And I think for many of you, if you look back 20 years from now, that will be your story. So, Milind, again, I'm sorry if I didn't answer the question too directly. And I don't mean at all to belittle the value of a specialization. But I do think that, each of you has 30, 40 years ahead of you in your lives and careers, and who knows what the world ends up looking like. Who knows where there is the greatest demand for talent and for intelligence. And so all I can say is at this point, focus on, it's very important to focus on what you're learning and focus on doing it well. Okay, because those are life skills that are going to serve you well regardless of where you end up. For some of you, you will end up pursuing your specialization career-wise and academically. And for others, it will be the stepping stone to other and different things that you may end up doing.
So what I hear you say is that we take specialization seriously and go deep as a matter of developing the mental discipline to stay engaged and to explore and stay curious. And these are the skills. You may not remember the knowledge that you gained in the classroom, but the mental discipline and the rigor of learning will help you master newer and newer fields as they come up. My next question is, I'm like most students. I come from a very sheltered environment where the parents made the decisions for me. They chose the school for me. They got worried when my grades in the school dropped. And they have been a big part of my life so far, including nudging me to go for this particular university or this particular course, etc. Now I hear you say that it is important for me to write my own story. How do I begin to do that? Coming from a very sheltered, very protected environment to a environment where which I have to create for myself and experiment with my faculties, my abilities, and discover myself. How do I do that?
Yeah, yeah. And that's a very relevant question, because I think most of us, I mean, I say including myself, we were fortunate to grow up in that environment where we had a very supportive system. Sometimes some of you may argue that so supportive it was overbearing in some capacity, but a very supportive system, and where many things kind of came easy. I go back to one of my comments in my earlier talk, which was, don't be an island. Think about all the resources that you have, all the well-wishers that you have around you. You look to the left and right, your friends. Each of your friends comes from a different place, physically or contextually. They've had their own different experiences, their own different journey to come to the chair right next to you. Talk to them. Get their thoughts, get their suggestions. Your faculty, your leaders at the institution. Ask them questions or doubts that you have. Test some of your theses or hypotheses with them. That would be the second. Third is your family. In some cases, and I know in many cases, parents made the decision for you, not just in terms of university, but also in terms of what you'd study. Now, you may have agreed with that decision, maybe you didn't. But I think it's important for you to have that conversation with your parents, because more than anybody, they have your best interests at heart. And if you disagree with your parents in terms of their decisions, because yes, you now increasingly want to take control of your own destiny. If you disagree with them, the way to do it is to engage with them and have a conversation with them. Positive mental attitude. It's easy to point fingers at your parents, and they are the softest target for all of us. For all of us, our parents are the softest target. But so going to your parents and complaining about all the things they forced you into, or the bad decisions, or whatever it is not helpful. But going to your parents and explaining constructively what you want to do, what's important to you, is the way to do it, because that's constructive. Help them understand what's important to you. So I think you have this ecosystem of well-wishers around you that you can talk to. And then you have a wealth of resources just at your fingertips now. Like everything that you would ever want to know about anything is available at the click of a button. So start there. Start there, be curious, engage, explore, test some things, and then take risks. Don't be scared to take the plunge. Right? If you feel that something interests you, the only way to find out whether it's for real or for not is to actually go and try and do it. So if you feel there's a particular field, whether it's in your specialization or not, that's interesting to you, go and spend 2 months over the summer at an organization that does just that. And it may not be a traditional job, it may not be part of your university's placement service or whatever, but you can go and find that for yourself. There are so many resources available today to connect with organizations. So this is what I mean by beginning to write your own story. At the end of the day, you are the only one who can control and drive yourself in a direction with inputs, with engagement. But if you don't do that and you don't have that strong compass yourself, of course, the universe will take over and push and pull you in directions that the universe feels you should be landing up.
Continuing on this theme, most of my friends chose a particular discipline. So today it's computer science. If I followed them, I was not sure that this was my cup of the tea, but If it works out well for me, good. It'll be a happy story. But what if I don't like it? Will it be possible for me to change the field later? Let's say, can I do masters in some other field so that I keep my options open?
Absolutely, absolutely. I made a mistake. You know, when I graduated from high school, initially, and I did my 11th and 12th in science. I grew up in Pune. I did my 11th and 12th in science. I got the marks to go into medicine. I got the marks to go into engineering. But for some strange reason, I decided that I want to go and pursue a BCom degree, which you know, frankly, when I went to the university in Pune to get admission, they actually turned me away. They said, you know, this is like a prank. You have the marks to get into engineering medicine. Why would you come for BCom? You know, so I actually got turned away. But I said, no, I really want to do it. This was Wadia College in Pune. And finally, they gave me admission. So I joined and I started. I went there for a month. And then I realized this was a big mistake. Not because Wadia College was there, but I realized it wasn't the right thing for me. Fortunately, applications at Pilani were still open. And I managed to get my application in at the last minute and ended up going to Pilani. But now that's not the end of the story. I went to Pilani in a particular program that seemed really interesting. 6 months in, at that point I thought, okay, if I'm not doing commerce, then I had a great interest in civil services, and I thought maybe that would be a really interesting career for me. And Pilani actually had a very interesting course. It was a degree in what they call general studies. It was not an engineering program, but was general studies, which was really focused on, it was a very broad base. It was like classic liberal arts program. This is back 25 years ago. And that just seemed like a fascinating program. I went to Pilani, I enrolled in that, only to realize that, of course, you know, why would BITS Pilani, an engineering school, have a liberal arts program? I realized that the fine print was that was the one program where most of the students, BITS Pilani had a small quota for for locals in the small town of Pilani and that area, and that was the one program which was mainly reserved for that quota. And so I landed up in Pilani, and I was like, okay, maybe I've kind of landed up at the right university, but in the wrong program. And I went to the administration and I said, I really want to continue here, but this is not the program for me. And they looked at me and said, well, the only way you can change out of this program is if you score a GPA of over 9.3 on 10 in your first year, then we'll consider a transfer. So I said, okay, I don't have a choice. That's what I have to do. And so I really studied hard that first year and ended up successfully transferring out to another program. So, I think to your question, Milind, it is almost impossible for the average 18-year-old to know what they want to do for the rest of their life. I still don't know exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I don't think any of you should put the burden on yourselves of having everything figured out. You came into this program for a reason, and I'm sure for a logical reason. If for whatever reason at any point you feel that this is not the right program for you, I think you live in an environment where, number one, you can always explore transferring out into another program, or go through with this program and you can definitely pursue a master's program in a different discipline. And again, in India, abroad, the opportunities are really quite endless. So please don't put undue pressure on yourselves. Again, easy for me to say 25 years later. I cannot tell you how stressed out I was in my first year in Pilani. That stress was for real. I felt like it would be the end of the world if I didn't get that transfer. But now when I look back, yeah, again, I learned the value of hard work. I learned the value of sacrifice. My friends were all out having a great time in the first year, and I was sitting there studying, trying to get that GPA. But at the end of the day, it worked out. So take it in your stride. And no decision that you make today, or very few decisions that you make today, other than fundamental decisions, values, integrity-based decisions, professional decisions, academic decisions, none of those are irreversible. Okay, you have a long life, a long career ahead of you, and you will chart the path that you want. So don't put undue pressure on yourself today.
Thank you. I have a very similar story myself, but we'll chat about that later. My next question is, does going abroad lead to a better career? And as a student of NCU, does this partnership with ASU mean that I'll be able to do my master's faster? And does that get me access to better career?
Yeah. I think today, yes. I mean, one could argue, and every day in the newspaper, you see articles of, fresh graduate at XYZ University in the US makes, 2 crores or whatever. I mean, again, you do all this foreign exchange conversions and everything seems very rosy and hunky-dory when you're on the other side of the ocean. The truth of the matter is today there are amazing opportunities all around the world. Whether in India is one of, sitting in places like the US, people have their eye on countries like India and China as this is where the future is. So I won't look at it necessarily through the lens of, oh, if I want to have a good career, I have to go abroad. I, again, put it in the context of what is it that you want to do? What are the kind of experiences that you have? One of the great values of going abroad at a young age, and I'm biased because this is one of the choices that I made for myself, but one of the great values of that is it just broadens your horizon. We're influenced and informed by what we see around us. You land up in a different part of the world, whether that's the US, whether that's Southeast Asia, whether that's Africa, whether that's Europe, wherever you are, it's a different perspective, different set of experiences and different learning, and different career opportunities. I do think there is value to a global career because today almost everything is global. So I personally do see value in having a global outlook on a career, but again, that may not be for everybody. Again, I think this partnership that NorthCap has with Arizona State University does present some really interesting opportunities. Now, it is early days of the partnership, and Milind, I know yourselves and the leadership at NorthCap is feverishly working with the leadership at Arizona State University to try and put in place some of these accelerated pathway programs, master's programs, etc. A starting point that I think is available to everybody today or will be available soon is the opportunity to start to participate in ASU curriculum as part of their own programs while they're studying at NorthCap. So that is something that is definitely in the works, and there will be courses from Arizona State University that will increasingly be embedded, as relevant and as your faculty thinks it makes sense into your learning experience as part of the curriculum or outside of the curriculum. So that's a good starting point. And over time, I think you will hear more and more about the opportunities either to physically visit Arizona State University for a master's or similar, or to participate in Arizona State University programs online or virtually. So again, the idea is to maximize the range of options and the range of resources that's available to you.
Now, speaking of curriculum, and I have heard this question asked by some parents, we talk about the ASU online content or course content or digital content, etc. But out here, the curricula of engineering or law, for instance, are set by AICTE and Bar Council of India. So if I'm going to learn these curricula which are set by AICTE, how does ASU curriculum help me?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a difference between the curriculum and the curriculum structure and the delivery of education. So let me give you an example. Medical school curriculum is virtually the same. It's regulated. So almost every medical school in in India, and almost every medical school around the world actually delivers a very similar curriculum. Because a doctor is a doctor and has to know pretty much the same things. How it's delivered and who it's delivered by can vary. The mode and style of delivery can vary. And so, I think the fact that AICTE regulates the curricula for law, engineering, etc., does not come in the way of a university's ability to be creative and innovative around how it wants to actually deliver that content and how it wants students to learn. And what I have seen at NorthCap is, and what I think is quite unique, is that NorthCap is one of the few universities that's willing to be innovative, that is willing to actually be progressive, embrace where the world is going in terms of the opportunities for students, not just to learn face-to-face in the classroom, but to learn maybe in a blended fashion between online and face-to-face. And then if there are elements that are going to be delivered online, there are resources, not just locally, but from around the world that can be tapped into. And I think NorthCap University that's one of the reasons why it has this unique partnership with Arizona State University to get access to a lot of those resources. So no, I don't think it should be an impediment. To the extent there are rules and restrictions, just talking to the students now, let your faculty and let the leadership of the university figure out the regulations and the constraints. But I can assure you that whatever is finally delivered to you, whether it's delivered by your local faculty, ASU faculty, online, offline, whatever, I know a lot of thought and research has gone into what is the best possible mode of delivery for the student's experience.
I'm just looking at the watch and didn't realize we've been at it for nearly an hour. So I'll ask you one last question. As a student, will I see myself placed in international companies more easily because we now have this partnership with ASU?
The good news is, international companies are already coming to NorthCap University. International companies any company, international or local, and frankly, many Indian companies today are actually international companies. They're multinationals. And so companies today are in search of the best talent around the world, wherever they can find it. And that's why many multinational companies, both Indian and overseas, recruit today from NorthCap University. Right. I think what international companies are looking for increasingly are students who can hit the ground running when they join the workforce, who come with a global perspective and outlook, so they can be successful and functional in a multicultural or multidisciplinary setting, are good communicators, are team players. These are the things that companies are really looking for. And yes, subject matter expertise, but they're looking for all of these other things. And again, if one looks at all the resources that Arizona State University has to offer, I think it is definitely, it will definitely be an icing on the cake for a student at NorthCap University. And trust me, Arizona State University themselves has such deep and tremendous relationships, not just recruiting, but research collaborations, relationships, etc., with some of the best companies in the world. And I know as we look at the next few years of this partnership, big focus is going to be how do we bring some of those industry collaborations, research collaborations to NorthCap University. And it will go both ways. I do not for a second want to make this sound like, Arizona State University gives and NorthCap takes. The reason they have this partnership is because Arizona State University is equally interested in learning from NorthCap University what is most relevant in their setting. So it's a two-way street, and that two-way street is going to include faculty, it is going to include students, it is going to include research, it is going to include curriculum, and it is going to include a lot of collaboration. So I know we're out of time. But I think the opportunities in the future is really bright. Congratulations again to all of you. You're in a wonderful and a very privileged place. You're very fortunate to have the opportunity not just to go to university, but to go to a great university. Do make the most of it, and all the very best.
Thank you, Neel, for a very, very insightful talk. As I said, it makes me wish that I was an 18-year-old again and listening to this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Milan. Thank you for inviting me.